folks. Welcome to our City Matters. Today we have Doris Hohensee with us. She is the chair of New Hampshire Families for Education, and she will let us know about more legislation up in Concord. I know Victoria brought us last week legislation for different House bills and Senate bills, and important to the people. And this week, Doris will bring us another important bill that we need to be supporting. So, good morning, or actually it's afternoon now. Good morning, Doris.
We need to talk about 603, House Bill 603.
Okay, we'll start with 603.
That's a simple, straightforward bill that everybody wants. It just allows the parents, it recognizes the right of the parent to refuse the assessments and to opt out. So putting this into law, maybe it will keep the commissioner from writing those abusive technical advisories that they're using in the districts to tell parents, oh, no, there's no such right.
Right,
there
we
is.
had to go through that whole ordeal and inform parents of their rights, and now we have how many that have opted out of Manchester?
Oh, 748 so far.
748, so...
But other districts isn't so friendly. Like in New Ipswich, for example, they're having a presentation this week because when they go to their school board, they're not even allowed to give public comment. They had to pick it. And one of their teachers, an art teacher that a very well-respected teacher, Mr. C, they suspended him for giving out information to students or parents about opting out. So he had to meet in non-public session with the school board. He's back in the school, he's teaching again, but he's told not to speak about it.
So we have hostile districts, in other words, to parents' rights.
Totally, totally. There are parents that are opting out, but they had to find this information out for themselves because the districts are hiding it, intimidating, bullying, saying, oh, no, you can't, and the parent has to come back, oh, yes, I can, and they play this back and forth 2 or 3 times, and then finally the parent prevails. But this is wrong. This is very wrong. So this bill, 603, there'll be a hearing tomorrow in the Senate Education Committee at 9 o'clock in the morning, and people will go and testify and say why this is needed, why this bullying and intimidation must stop.
And the date tomorrow is, just so we keep track
Oh, Tuesday, that would be the 14th
of
April.
April.
And if you miss that, if this is put out, is cycled out, you can still write or call your state senators and tell them, because first they'll vote in committee, and then they'll vote the whole 24 of them on the Senate floor probably a week from Thursday, which would be the 23rd.
Okay, so there's still time to get in contact with your state reps.
If you have an opinion you want to speak
and senators.
Out. Right. And then the other bill, which is even more concerning, is House Bill 323. This bill is relative to the assessment program, and it passed through the House with a floor amendment that parents weren't able to speak to. It wasn't vetted by the committee. The chairman, Ladd, of the House Education Committee just got out and blustered his way through. They passed it on a voice vote. We don't even know who voted for it or against it. And here we are now in the Senate. We have a hearing on that at 9:20 on Tuesday, April 14th. And again, it's the same procedure. First there'll be a public hearing, and then the committee will vote. They'll recommend to the Senate as large, and probably on the 23rd, or maybe a week later, depending how fast they are, they'll vote as a Senate as a whole. But this is the enabling legislation for that new waiver we're getting for No Child Left Behind. 2 years ago, we got a waiver that helped solidify Common Core, smarter balance, and a lot of things that parents may or may not like. This one is a 4-year waiver. And since parents are able to opt out, even though they're hiding it and covering it, like in Manchester, what is it, 18% have opted out already?
Yes.
That's a 12-week window, so that number will probably go up.
Yes.
They're trying to circumvent our rights. So instead of having a one end-of-the-year test, they said, oh, we'll reduce testing, we'll take away that test. So they're going to integrated into the program a locally designed, quote-unquote, assessment program that's really not locally designed, but they're pretending that it is, and they're going to have like weekly assessments. So how is 30 assessments better than one end of the year? And the problem is, will parents be able to opt out of 30 times throughout the year? And they're trying to make them contingent upon graduation, like if you don't do this level, you can't go to the next level, grade-wise or even within the grade. So they're trying to make it more difficult for parents. So the question is do we or don't we like this? If this is problematic, we need to be able to voice our objection.
So how does this work with the formative and the summative assessment? Is this, we say this, the end of the year?
It's a summative.
So, but they're going to do the summative each
A
week?
formative would be the beginning and end. An interim, this is more like an interim where they keep iterating over and over again and seeing where you stand today, seeing where you stand next week, seeing where you stand the following week. So maybe they would be smaller assessments, but there's more of them.
And is the information going to the federal government or to Smarter Balance, or who's
There's
conducting
so little
this?
transparency on this. We are told this is a pilot program. They call it the PACE program, and it's in 4 districts now, and they want to expand it to 8 the next year, and little by little the state. And you have to have permission to get in, and to get in, your district has to comply with adopt all Common Core, adopt Next Generation Science, which is essentially Common Core for science, but that name is a little radioactive, so they're trying to confuse
That's
you.
another show.
They also call it College and Career Ready standards. So whatever, those are interchangeable terms, but they're federally funded standards, whatever they are. The federal government is promoting, pushing, and requiring. So if you do all these standards and you do competency-based education, then you're allowed to get in this program. Then you have to develop your local assessment program. Now the first 4 districts, they're not developing them individually. They're collaborating, regionally doing it, and they've got 2 nonprofits that work with them, and then they have to be approved by the state, and then when you grade them, you don't really locally grade them, you regionally or the state grade. It's not local control, but they're selling it as local control. A step that they're even talking in our direction. I mean, they talk the right talk, but they're not necessarily doing what they say.
So what about like Wakefield, that's doing the old Massachusetts standards that
Well,
were number 1 in the
It would
country?
be
What
nice
happens to them?
if they could get into this program and say, we're going to do locally designed programs and use the kneecaps, or not the kneecaps, the MCAS as the protocols, because that was the Massachusetts assessments that they had. But in this PACE program, we have to use the Smarter Balance protocols.
Oh,
So it's essentially just taking Smarter Balance off the shelf, recombining it, and throwing it back out in pieces at your kids, and pretending that somehow that you're locally controlling it. But before this thing is even piloted and tested and proven, we shouldn't put this in statute. So that has to be reversed. So Ladd's amendment needs to be modified. We need to take out the language that says PACE until we're sure the PACE is something we want. We don't even have Smarter Balance in this in statute, so why do we put PACE in there? Let's reinstate local assessments, because they took those out 2 years ago. There was RSA 193C, the section 1.5. It was a critical part of this program is the local education improvement and assessment plan. If it's a critical part, how did it go out? So if we're now talking local assessment, let's put that back in. It's vetted. It used to be in statute. Now it's in vogue to do local, so we'll put that back in. That enables the pilot program because it's locally designed, and then work out the details in rules and regulations when it becomes clear which way that's going, and that way they'd have to get it approved by JLCAR, the Joint Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules, which is the legislature. So you're keeping oversight of the Commissioner of Education, not just saying, like Ladd did in his bill, just go down to D.C., work with Arnie Duncan, come back when you've got it done. That's not oversight. That's completely abdicating our authority to the federal government. So I think something more moderate, saying, okay, we're all in favor of local assessments. That's great. It was a critical part of our program when we started. So let's reinstate that.
that's what Manchester wanted to do.
Right.
They
And
wanted
then-
to make their own assessment and have Manchester academic standards.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's this going to do? It's going
Well,
to
if
just...
we get back the attitude that local is good, we put that back in the statute, and then we work out in rules the details, maybe in conjunction with the federal government, if it's getting the funding, that's fine. But I don't think we should hardwire into our state law something that we don't even definitively know, and giving carte blanche to the commissioner, do as you please, no oversight needed. That is a bad
It's a
precedent.
one-size-fits-all, is it not? I mean, if
Well,
it's from D.C.,
They're trying to say that if it's locally designed, that every district will have their own innovative little program, and that concept is good. So we can go with them that far.
yes, right.
So we've only had 2 weeks of information on this waiver before they slammed it in on March 31st. We had 2 bills asking for a public hearing on any applications they put in with the federal government, because we wanted to give feedback. We wanted to know what was going on. They denied us. And finally, on the 16th of March, they said, well, here's what we're doing, 134 pages, and we've got 2 weeks. Tell us what you want. Oh, no, we don't want a public hearing. They put a survey monkey on the department website. So you had 4 days or so to go to that Survey Monkey and fill out the multiple choice questions that they asked. That was insulting. If Survey Monkeys are so good, think of how much money we could just send the legislature home. Put up Survey Monkeys. Legislators can work from home. Nobody needs to see each other. Nobody needs to talk in public. It was a very big insult to parents. And they submitted that on March 31st to the federal government. The results of the Survey Monkey. It's like 30 or 40 pages. They weren't good. Parents weren't happy. But it's ludicrous that that's what they're doing. So I think we need an amendment tomorrow for the Senate Education Committee that says, yes, local assessments, they're a critical part. Let's put them back. And we need the opt-out provisions of 603, House Bill 603, that if parents find that there's a problem, their kid does not need this assessment or, they should be able to opt out. It's their right to do that. And we need to somehow fit that in with the approval process of PACE as it develops. We can't it's like they want us to do it like Smarter Balance. We're signing on, and then somebody goes in the back room and develops it. Well, we shouldn't sign on to PACE and let them go in the back room and develop it. We've done that. That was a mistake. So let's keep this in the front room. And I think having it in rules and regulations and having JELCAR, the legislature, oversee that process, as little as that is, it's something. It's better than saying, go to the back room, tell us when you're done. So we're just trying to get a little bit more open, transparent government.
Well, I was just hoping that something would be good for Manchester in all of this.
It's not definitive. If you tell the commissioner she can go in the back room with Arnie Duncan in D.C., it's not going to be good for Manchester. But if you keep it a little bit more in the open, it might be good for Manchester.
It was so diverse. One size doesn't fit all for every district in this state.
Well, they're starting to talk that way. They're saying we need locally designed. So let's make them walk the walk. Talking the talk is cheap. Mm-hmm. We need to have them walk the walk.
We just don't want to have this bullying from the commissioner as went on this year.
They had to pick it and put out lit drops in various places to get the information out. Because, like Nashua, they didn't even want to talk about it. They passed a rule that says, okay, parents can opt out, but we're not going to tell them. That's a secret. So I got people calling me and asking me, okay, yeah, it's a new policy. Haven't heard about it? They're keeping it under a hat. But yes, you can. Yes, you can. That's not right. I mean, they're breaking the trust. If there is a trust, you reach out to the parents who pay your salary, and you work with them collaboratively. You say, okay, you're my community. Let's work together for the best interest of the kids. Not, let's all go in a closet and we'll work with Arnie Duncan and we'll come back. Don't worry, we'll have federal dollars, so we don't need your input.
And we'll tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And we'll bully you into doing it or intimidating you into doing it.
It's backwards.
Right.
We don't have public servants anymore if this is how they're acting.
Right.
We need to get them back in line to understand that we're the ones that pay their salary. We're the ones they need to talk to. And when they keep saying all these stakeholders, that's a euphemism for anybody but parents.
Right.
Now, businesses, it's nice that they have people to work in their companies, but our children are not human capital. So you talk to the parents. Parents want them to be productive, but they want more than just that. They want them to be broadly educated, more of a liberal arts, and so they can be educated as a person for their life, participating in government and developing themselves as individuals, and part of that is working. It is not their whole be and end all. We're not doing workforce training with limited learning for lifelong labor.
Right.
This isn't a plantation, as you say.
I know.
It's a different mindset that we have to cultivate, and we have to educate them.
Right. Well, I appreciate the work you're doing up there, Doris. I mean, I know you go up there 3-4 times a week. You're on the phone constantly.
It's important.
Facebooking and your website, New Hampshire Families for Education. It's a Facebook and a website. All this information is there, folks.
And we can converse on Facebook. You can put things out. You can get feedback from people in your town, the next town over, so you can compare. Like if you're in Keene and you have no place to voice, I don't think their school board is very receptive to parents coming in. You find out why they're picketing on the street or why they're going out and doing lit drops, and find out what they can do in other towns and how they can change that. I mean, Manchester, they have a public comment period that's pretty good in the beginning. Nashua, we have two. We have one at the beginning, one at the end. So these school board meetings are completely unattended by parents for the most part. Why are they so stingy on public comment periods? The rare occasion that you get a parent, you'd think they'd say yes and welcome with open arms. Some districts, they say you have to be on the agenda to speak. So that's what they're doing in New Ipswich. They're putting them on the agenda so they can discuss Common Core. So now where are the parents on this agenda? They're inviting in Heather Gage from the department, Scott Manty from the department. Well, where's the opposition? That's the pro-federal lobbyists. You know, they get federally paid. 85% of our New Hampshire Department of Education is federally funded. So these are the federal lobbyists. They've come to town. Where are the people that say, hey, maybe we want local control? Maybe we want to shake it up a little bit. Maybe we want to think about what we're doing instead of just saying, okay, I'll take the money and run.
It's not all about the money, because some students are not doing well under Common Core. And parents are being, woken up or concerned, say, what's going on in the school?
There's a bill this year, Senate Bill 195. It's going to the House floor for a vote. And this one is it's patching Common Core, because Common Core took out cursive writing and it took out math memorization of tables. And lo and behold, there's a problem. So now they're trying to patch it. My attitude is forget the patch.
And put it in state law.
Right.
That they have cursive or...
Well, they're encouraging it because they can't mandate it, because that would be downshifting.
Right.
But why try a patch when you know the source of the problem is Common Core? We never had the problem before.
Right. And it's not in the Massachusetts standards.
And if these are brand new, wonderful standards.
The problem isn't in the Massachusetts standards, because Massachusetts standards incorporates cursive writing and the memorization of timetables.
It's admitting that there's a problem with these standards without admitting it at the same time. So
incredible.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of, but our schools, they're so important.
So hopefully, if folks want to talk to you about these bills, if they can contact you through the Facebook page. They can message you.
Right, on Facebook.
Doris Hohensee.
Yep.
Hohensee. And
there's a lot of other parents that are waking up, and they'll help answer too. It started out a couple lone voices in the wilderness, and we are expanding. And this year, with those assessments, it is growing in leaps and bounds. Parents are waking up and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't notice. This has been going on for a couple of years. And they're doing research, and I'm amazed at some of them that they knew nothing, and all of a sudden they're coming up to speed. It was 2 years ago that I heard about it. I didn't know a thing about it. I was working on homeschooling legislation. I home educated my kids, 6 of them, and I used the public schools intermittently. So I knew there were problems with both, and we fixed the home education law, and then I turned around and I saw Common Core. I took a deep breath and I said, okay, we've got to bite this bullet. We've got to do something to protect parents, because this is just running over us. The data collection that's going on, that parents have no clue. And what was it that in Tewksbury, was it cooperative and uncooperative parents?
Yeah, they're rating the parents.
How dare they put on a record which parents are cooperative and which ones aren't? It's just astounding. I mean, let's get in there and have a database on administrators. Forget the teachers. They're being forced to follow suit. And I don't feel so bad about them, but the administrators that are enabling this, that we're ranking, that, it's like it's condescending. It's like, you're good enough to be a parent, but don't worry, you all, even if you're not cooperative, you'll still pay our salary.
Well, it's the parents are not in their position as in control. The control is coming from the government.
Shouldn't be. It's
over
supposed to be
your
local. It's
over the family.
Did you see that article in the National Telegraph today, or Sunday? It talked about a teacher winning a trip, one of 2 in the country, to the Grand Canyon to go kayaking or something, because she's proposing to eliminate a law that respects parental rights, that allows you to opt out of objectionable material. Oh no, let's just beat those parents into submission. They have no rights. Why would they have any control over their kids? It's like terminating parental rights without going to court and going through the process. And she won a prize. She's going to work with the unions, the teacher unions, the AFT, American Federation for Teachers, and that's who gave her the prize. So she's going to get rid of that opt-out law. I don't think she is.
Not if you're there.
Unbelievable. It's like, again, cooperative and uncooperative. They just want us to give birth to our kids and throw them over.
Property of the state.
Human capital.
There was a country that did that. And there was a man named Hitler that had Hitler Youth.
Yeah.
And he controlled every bit of that child's education himself, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we feel like here. And I can't believe it's happening.
Well, I can't think of too many centrally controlled education programs in a nation that turned out well.
No.
I'd be open to dialogue on that, but I haven't seen. Even if it was a perfect program, this Common Core, you're putting in place a mechanism so when you get the wrong person elected, it's extremely dangerous. It could be politically biased. The data mining could be dangerous. They take information about your families.
Sort
So
people
why
in the country.
put in place something that is extremely dangerous? It's just very short-sighted.
I mean, it totally goes against the American ideal of freedom, freedom of choice, freedom of thought.
Live free or die. Yeah.
Really?
So no, it has to go, and I think there's a lot of parents that are pushing back. It just at some point they're going to start listening, and we're getting a little bit of traction, not as much as we should, but we just have to work together until we get it.
At the end of this line of indoctrination, I'll call it indoctrination, that's what it is, the businesses some of them are saying, we don't want this type of student or person to come work in our company. This politically correct, just as a robot, they've been trained to think and do a certain way, certain thing.
Yeah.
They really don't want that. They want people who are creative. And Common Core takes the creative person out of the picture because you're taught to the standard, and the standard is not creative. The standard is what it is. It's the base of everything, and you go up along the ladder, and you all come out the same at the end.
It's frightening because it's not just academic. This program is more behavior modification because it measures your values, your attitudes, and beliefs about different things. And they don't really, and that's what the Telegraph article was displaying. This was a science teacher, and she liked climate change. If you don't believe in the new theories, there are theories of climate change. There is no dogma from on high. And if you don't believe in it, then there's something wrong with you. Instead of presenting both sides of a story and saying, well, this is what many of them think, and this is what the opposition thinks, so they can piece it together and say, hey, maybe I have a better theory. I mean, it's like going back with the earth is flat. You have to believe it.
That's right.
Well, it didn't last, but
Right.
you shouldn't have this narrow-mindedness that we have the truth and everything that's not our opinion is not the truth, and everybody who doesn't believe the truth is a bad person who's not cooperative and needs to be pushed down.
Well, it's sorted. Those that believe this way, those that believe that way, those that are remediated, those who cannot be or unwilling to be remediated. And, I mean, this is horrible.
It's not free.
Not free at all.
And in New Ipswich, Mr. C, why is he being muzzled? It's his First Amendment rights. Granted, he's under contract to the district, but these are parental rights he's not allowed to talk about?
Right.
Where does his rights as a citizen stop and the district take over? It's just like Nashua. We have a policy, but we're going to keep it under a hat. They could have sent out an email and said, hey, this is what it is. This is what the story is. If you want to, this is the mechanism you use to opt out your kids. We would prefer you keep them at home because we don't know if we can manage that many kids, but if you do send them in, we will keep them safe, because that was a lot of the concern in Nashua. They weren't going to take them if they opted out. So it's your problem, parents, and if you work, oh, so now I can't do it? I don't have. So the commissioner or the superintendent did say that, yes, we will take them, reluctantly. But why not put it out there? Why not be open? Why are we hiding facts and keeping them close to our chest and operating in a back room closet? Why isn't everything out there? What happened to open government? And that's the thing that you see throughout all of what they're doing.
We have to take it back, Doris,
We are.
because it's our government. We are the government. The public schools are our schools. They don't belong to the stakeholders other than the parents
Yeah.
who think that they know best for us and that they want to exploit our children for their gain.
Well, they keep talking about locally controlled districts, and we prefer that there is some state interference. But where did locally controlled come from? If you look in our Constitution, there's only one place. We have the right to hire our own teachers and contract with them. Now, if we have that right, it's not a privilege, it's a right. Technically, there shouldn't be any certification of teachers mandated. It should be recommended. There shouldn't be a lot of these things. It should be, we find the teachers that we feel in our district are highly qualified, and we have them, commission them to teach our children. So, I mean, there has been a leaning and breaching of our rights from way back. So we need to push back and say, you can't use these tests to label our teachers effective or ineffective and then tell us we have to fire them.
No.
And that's where it's going. That's what they want to use these tests to do. Our student performance on these tests is supposed to evaluate our schools and our teachers, and if our teachers don't measure up to these silly tests or assessments that are not validated, that are not 100% academic, that are very behavioral, and then we're supposed to do something to penalize them, not give them raises and maybe potentially fire them and let them go? There's something very wrong with this mentality.
We're standardizing teachers, and we're making robots out of them also.
Turning them into facilitators, not
Facilitators
teachers. They're not
as
allowed
well.
to use their voice, like in Ipswich. They're not allowed to use their brain.
No,
And I think we need to go today.
I think so too. All right, Doris. Well, I appreciate you bringing this information, and you'll come back again and give us an
Anytime.
update on
Certainly.
how it turns out.
Okay.
Like I told Victoria last week, we need to know the outcome of this, and so in a few weeks we'll know.
Okay.
All right, I thank you so much for coming on Our City Matters, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, folks, for joining us. Take care.